We are live. Welcome, everybody, to this really fun summit from Double Down Speaking. Tonight is a fun event. It is where we get to show all the different speakers that have been through the Double Down Speaking class, 8 weeks. This group, we took a little longer. Had a lot of fun with them. This is ideation number 2. Tonight is not just a celebration. It's not a graduation. They kind of already done that. It is a declaration because every single person stepping on the virtual stage tonight did something most people never do. They found their voice. They own their story, and they chose to rise up when life tried to keep them silent. Your voice is not just sound. It is your signature. It is your soul printed in syllables. It gives you the power to shift rooms, shake minds, transform hearts, and most importantly, change your own life. The ability to unlock what is going on in your own world, your own sphere, is only guided by you. And once you own that story that is you, all of a sudden you can transform. So that's why I call it transformational speaking. So when I say rise up and transform, that's what I deem tonight. And I named it this because of the speakers that are going to be speaking tonight and their topics that they've already presented before. Each group is going to be different as we go through these 8-week courses, but this group had a sense of resiliency, a sense of trauma that has gone through their life, and they've gotten to a place where they were just done with the previous version of themselves, and I got to see them grow in such a massive level. And it's not really about success, it's more about fulfillment. We are trying to create people that are becoming the best version of themselves and feel like they've been chosen by their maker. I believe that it's God. Feel like they've been chosen by that one thing, that one guiding force where they have taken their pain and they are turning it into purpose at whatever stage they are in their life. So we're going to go ahead and first, before we do our first speaker, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my good friend, a graduate of the first class who has been my right-hand man for the last several months. Henry Garcia is legit one of the greatest human beings I've gotten to meet in my life. The heart the size of a lion and a voice the size of a megaphone. I don't really know. And while we do this, do me a huge favor, guys. Like this video, share this video, do all the things with this video. Henry, what's happened? Oh man, it looks like sprockets. You're just deep in the dark. I like it. But your lighting looks better now.
Man.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we're talking about transformation, and it's like you were saying, a lot of these students that are here today, they had to go through, they had to face a little bit of darkness in themselves. They had to face a little bit of their judgments, to get through their stories of transformation. So maybe that's a little representation.
Yeah, I do. Good in the darkness. So Henry, you've been with me on almost every Wednesday night class. We met a little over a year ago now at the Great American Speak Off, where we were both finalists and speakers, and we developed a friendship through the mastermind with Andrew and Stefani and that whole group of people. And you've, just like all of us, we've all been through a lot of life stuff, but the one thing that we can all agree on is the fact that using our voice has kind of changed just our outlook on everything. So if you want to speak to that about, and especially about the fact you got to hang out with this class just as much as I did, speak about yourself and the people that we taught during this class.
Yeah, I just say, like right now, I feel like I'm standing in this moment. I'm sitting in this moment right here in this class with you, and I just want to say, thank you for having me on here and going through this whole entire process. Like you mentioned, like we could fill a whole podcast with everything, with that whole experience, and yeah, and I'm excited. So like as far as like the journey goes, you never know when a moment or you meet somebody in a handshake and it just seems like so small and like it's just passing, but that actually changes your life. Because I remember that event that you were talking about is that I met you with just a handshake. I caught you at the end before we were just about to end out. I didn't get to hang out with Anthony the whole event. I got to see him right at the end. I remember the only thing you said was like, hey, I was like, what's your name, man? And you were like, Anthony Russo. And I was like, where have I heard that before? And you're like, yeah, the guy that makes Marvel. That's not me. And I'll never forget. And just that passing. And I didn't think that, that we would be here, working together, because I only met you at a glance. And, and I just speak to the character of you and what you've built here with Double Down to allow me to come into this fresh class from just a glance, and just the generosity you had in your heart to to an up and coming speaker from somebody we both met in the same competition. There was no reason to say that we weren't at the same level or I couldn't lift you or anything. And you just have this generosity and this character about you, man, that just attracted to me. And it really pulled out the transformation in my story. You created a safe space. It wasn't always tense filled. We got to have fun with Toastmasters and steroids. That's why I always show up every single Wednesday. Um, and you created a space for me to come in and make my mistakes and to learn from my failures and to really develop my stories of transformation when I thought I was going deep and to go and try it out. And I really wasn't going deep. And you were always clear to give me the feedback to not so much as like tear me apart, but you always lifted me up. And that's one of the things that I've seen in this class with all of these students is like, yeah, you lifted them up and like you noticed that there was something different as well. Like they had this energy inside of them as a group, as a collective to, like they turned this into a transformational speaking course, if you ask me, because they went deep into themselves. They weren't trying to sell a product or anything like that. They were, some of them had that, but really they came a lot from the heart and just the transformation that I've seen in them and getting to know everybody you're going to get to see throughout here. And I'm not going to name them all because I'm just not going to do that. Anthony gets to do that. So, I just want to say, the journey of transformation is tough, because these speakers, they all got to go and walk the bridge of seeing what their identity and what they were made of and what their stories really made them, and to see the strength that what they thought were judgments, what they thought were vulnerabilities, were actually their strength. Their darkest moments in life, some of their heaviest moments in life were actually their strength. And that was actually where they excelled, where they shined like a light. So many of them, I can highlight all of them. And what you're going to see today is you're going to see some people share some stories that they worked months to put together. You're going to see them. Some of them are going to put their heart. They're going to hit you with stuff that, you may not forget, that may change your life. And I think that's the beauty of the transformational stories and everything that you've done, from your transformational story, Anthony, to me, to mine, and the way that this is just rolling and paying forward. I love the mission. I back the mission and the movement and everything that we're doing with transformation. And I love this, man. So thank you for having me as a co-host, and thank you, students, for being here. And yeah, it's just a great experience.
And everything, the cool part about Henry on this last group is he was there on every class, and it was like anything that I missed, he was picking up on. And if there was a moment where I just wasn't 100% present, like I didn't know what to say, Henry was there. And for example, my mom is in this class. It's the hardest people to coach are the people that are the closest to you. And there was the moment where sometimes, when she was going through something, and it wasn't just her, but everybody else in the class too, I knew that if I could just hand off something to give another perspective, it was incredibly helpful to have Henry be able to do that. And these are what I call beta classes, beta tests, to see how the class runs and get feedback so that I can keep making it better and better. And the first class, I say this immediately. The first thing I noticed, the reason why I started really getting into this was Jay DePietro. He took a call with me, and I hear his story, and he's like, I have never really fully told this story. And I'm like, holy crap, I need to find a way to put this in a bottle and realize that as much as I love speaking, and I love influencing people, and I love having an impact on people, there's certain people that I can't touch no matter how well I tell my story, because it's not me. I could tell Jay's story, but it's not the same unless it comes from Jay. So that was when I started to realize that the whole purpose behind this was to be able to create speakers that can go out and do the things I couldn't and create the ripple effect. This class, this second group was, we got so close. Like, this is going to be one of those ones I remember. It's going to be very difficult for me to have a class that felt like this group of people, where I got that close and where I got to see them get this close to each other. Like they formed little groups, and they were able to build each other up when we couldn't. And this is when I realized that it's transformational speaking. I would love to tell you that I could find a way to get you and the people that are going to be on this call, the people who are going to be on this event, that I can get them to make tens of thousands of dollars speaking. But that's not authentic of me. But what I can tell you is what I've seen from this group, and what made me realize that this is truly transformational speaking, is that the first two sets of classes, what happened inside of them was a new level of confidence, new level of voice, new level of strength. And it all came from being able to know their story and transform from that. So that's why I realized, I'm like, this is a transformational program, because it's the way that they react to realizing that they have their story and they can go from it. And that's what you're going to be hearing today. So, Henry, any final words before we get the party started with our shockingly keynote speaker? Somehow she rose from the ashes and won the contest. Henry,
yeah. I'll just speak to that class, man, like you were saying, with the whole thing, with everything that was going through with that whole class. And it's definitely going to be something, because I was part of the first class. I was a student, and in the second class, being to work and all the time put into them. And I just saw, like, if there's one thing I could pinpoint about that transformational journey with that class, was that it was a ripple effect of giving and generosity. Your giving and generosity and your time and money, everything that in your experience to share with us, and what you work with me and everything like that. Like, I was a ripple effect of that. And then I started to give generously, and I'm showing up in the meetings, and I'm going up in there just because I wanted to give. We had talked about this the whole entire way. And since you were so generous with me, and we were generous with the students, we created an environment where they were generous with themselves, and they gave to themselves generously, sometimes the darkest parts of themselves that they wanted to go through. And they ended up on the other side. And that's what we're about to see, because your mom, Phyllis, the first speaker coming up, like you were talking about, this is the type of guy you were. Because I was like, oh snap, this guy entrusts me to work with his mom. Like, you don't let anybody just build a relationship with your mom. And this lady that's coming up here, they took a chance on Anthony and me, and being able to support and help her along with this journey is just a testament to her work ethic and the warrior. And I know you're going to introduce her right now, but just how awesome she was to put in the work to really get the results and come through in first place. Like, it's still amazing. It's so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you said that, I entrusted her to you. Technically, it was pawning off, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, we'll riff on that another time, man.
All right, I'm going to go ahead. Henry, stick around. Obviously, we'll pop up in between and give little ditties in there. I'm going to bring you in back, and we'll get ready for our first speaker. So before I get into it, I'm already a couple minutes over, which is fine because I built in some padding. The reason why I realize it's important to teach this speaking stuff, and why it's become a passion for me, as somebody that wrote a book on overcoming failure, tried to speak on that, reached limited to mild success, and realized that what I really am blessed with and what my purpose is, what God gave me the gift of, was the gift of gab. And not just the gift of gab, but the ability to actually speak life into other people's ability to speak. And truly, what ties human beings together is storytelling. I did a daily truth about that this last week. It's something that I heard from Jesus in the TV show, not real Jesus, but the chosen Jesus. I know that can be very confusing, but he was talking to somebody about telling their story, and it was a bad story about what they had done. But he goes, storytelling is what ties humans together, whether it's in our darkest moment or whether it's in our best moments. Storytelling is the key. And I'm able to realize and fulfill what I believe is God's purpose for me by doing this right here. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. So take a deep breath, open your hearts, because what you're about to witness is transformation in real time. So when you come out here, if you're at home, I want you to give a round of applause. Nobody can hear it but you, but I will appreciate it either way. The ones that refuse to stay quiet, they're the ones that are on this event. Let's get started with Rise Up and Transform with our first speaker, our keynote speaker, the winner of the contest. And thank you for tagging people. Keep liking it, sharing it, do all the things. I see you guys putting that in there. And also, lastly, the doubledownspeaking.com if you want to join on a free, completely free Wednesday night workshop. At least it's free for the first time. With that said, Kim, your lighting looks way better. I love it. I see you back there. Introducing our first speaker and our keynote, also known as my mother, Phyllis Russo.
Hello.
Hi, Phyllis.
Hi.
Phyllis, do I call you mom? Do I call you? I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't care what you call me, but thanks for pawning me off on Henry. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You can be a lot. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah, I know it.
All right, Doc, the floor is yours. Go ahead and bless everybody with your wisdom. Don't worry about the clock. Take a deep breath. Have a little fun. Drop some knowledge on everybody. The floor is yours.
Well, I'll start with this. I was holding my 13-month-old son in my arms when he began to have a seizure, a grand mal seizure in my arms. I felt completely helpless. We called 911. The ambulance arrived, but only one of us could go into the ambulance. My husband, who had MS and was blind, well, that left me with driving behind the ambulance. So I drove alone, and I'm crying, barely being able to see, panicking, praying, and trying to keep up. Well, once I was at the hospital, everybody came in together. They took him to the OR for a spinal tap. I didn't know what that was at first, but I knew that we were not allowed in there either. And so we stood outside the door, and we had to hear his screams, and we couldn't be there to comfort him. And so all I did was just pray again. Well, at the end of the night, they diagnosed him with febrile seizures, and these you had to put him on phenobarbital at that point. Now, this is a heavy sedation medication, and it left him disoriented for weeks as he was getting assimilated to it. So I'm watching my 13-month-old child, who had just learned how to walk at 12 months old, not being able to walk again, struggling, getting up, falling down. And I just wished for a better way than this drug. I wanted him off this drug. Now, interestingly enough, our pediatrician told us about a chiropractor that he sent his own children to, which is pretty unusual. And so we decided we'd save money. And months later, I'm not even sure how long it took us to save money because it was cash out of pocket. We went to a man, Dr. Anderson, and he was a chiropractor specializing in applied kinesiology. His approach combined nutrition and muscle-brain connections. And through his care, my son, Anthony, got better. He recovered. And not only that, he remained in such good health. Do you know this child never had a sick day in elementary school? Well, sometimes it's your child who redefine the course of your life. After experiencing all of this and this type of healing, well, it set me on a path to becoming a chiropractic physician. It changed everything for me. I wanted to help other parents. I wanted to help children. But to be honest, I wanted to help other parents find the hope and a drug-free solution for their children. It would take their helplessness away. And so that inspired me to go back to school and dedicate my life to healing through alternative medicine. So I practiced for 35 years, did chiropractic, functional medicine, which is sort of this looking at the root cause, acupuncture, mental health coaching. I worked with energy or frequency healing devices. And I also decided to go with a healing through the shaman, which is sort of from my cultural background. And then I applied everything I knew and everything I did for my patients to myself. I was very healthy. I was a runner in my 40s. I was a dancer as a child. I moved around as a chiropractor. I worked out. And then one day, it all changed. About 8 years ago, I had my own health crisis. I woke up that day and I was going to go work out. I was working out 5-6 days a week. Man, I feel like my arms are heavy. I'll work out tomorrow. You know what? Tomorrow never came. So I faced my own challenges. You know, it was then that I found out I was exposed to mold spores in my home. And on top of that, I was later diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune thyroid condition. Both conditions cause debilitating heavy fatigue. Like I was paralyzed by the fatigue. And I spent entire days on the couch, exhausted beyond words. I don't have a way to even explain how I could not move throughout the day. And I often wondered, am I ever going to run again? The truth is what I wondered if I'd ever recover. And at that point, just lying on the couch every day and not having purpose. I didn't even know if I wanted to recover at that point. So the struggles forced me to turn back to everything I had studied and practiced my entire adult life. I combined it all. And I did get better. But getting better wasn't back to full health. I needed somebody else. I couldn't be a doctor and a patient. And with the level of fatigue I had, I knew I couldn't be effective for me. I couldn't even study. My eyes would get tired. And so I finally just needed to let go and be the patient. And I needed to see another doc. And I did. You know, I saw her, and as I saw her, I was real clear that she was helping me. And so she got me more back to health. She helped me out with peptides. I went down to Florida and saw her. She changed things. Several things happened. But it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't the fullest of health. And I just, in the back of my mind, this whole time I wanted to run again. It took time. I did it eventually. I came back. I came back as Dr. Livewell, and I proved to myself I'm resilient. I never even thought of myself as resilient. And I realized that resilience is that secret ingredient. My own comeback brought me to developing my program. It's called Dr. Livewell's Cellular Transformational Blueprint. What's its purpose? Its purpose is to educate you on how to see and live your own resilience. It's how to unify science and spirituality, showing how they intersect and how they enhance each other for healing autoimmune, or anyone for that matter. Do you know, sometimes we don't even know we have an autoimmune problem, but we do know we can't think straight, like we have foggy head, or we have depression, or we have anxiety, or we can't concentrate, or we have gut problems and pain in our gut, or we have joint pain and we think it's arthritis, when it's really from the thyroid, or we gain weight and we can't lose weight. My idea was to put together a holistic, resilience-based program that blends science, blends nutritional importance, emotional well-being, and spiritual practices to help everyone reclaim your life, your story of resilience. For me personally, it's about how I turn my pain, that's an experience of 7 years to 8 years of pain, to helping others find their purpose and to find their healing. And this I know the Holy Spirit is working inside of me. So let me tell you a little bit about the program and its format. It has about 7 hours of online modules. What does it do? Everything is there for you. It starts with, we're going to learn about the thyroid. We're going to learn about good thyroid and bad thyroid and how the physiology works. We're going to learn about the web of Hashimoto's and how it goes in so many different directions, so many different organs that it affects. There's so much information in this. It even talks about how you get through it, how you can handle your stress. It talks about exercise and how much you can do and how much you shouldn't do. There is community hours, and those are bi-monthly. And generally, that is for support and for accountability. And we even add drum meditations to it, or Qigong, which is a mind-body movement exercise. And there is a ton of written information on everything health. It's about plastics and how that is hormone disruptors for you and how it changes your system, the chemicals in the soil, the glyphosates on grains, particularly wheat. This is why we kind of confuse that with gluten sensitivity. And then there's worksheets so you can stay on track. Now, my core concept, it's about finding the root cause. It's about treating from there and asking the questions, what is it that it affects? Is it the gut? Is it the thyroid? Is it the brain? And could the liver be affected? So if somebody has gut problems, is it leaky gut? If they have thyroid problems, is it hypothyroid or hyperthyroid? And what does the Hashimoto's affect? What other organs? Now, the question is, too, is it the liver? Everybody talks about, oh, I want to do a detox. Well, what if you can't even, what if your liver isn't even healthy enough for you to detox? So that's why I investigate. It's important to know, will that liver even be able to do it? Again, we talk about lifestyle and something serious about exercise. You can't over-exercise when you're having these type of autoimmune problems. So you've got to be careful with that. I order extensive lab work. I look at it. I interpret it. I assess it. We consult. And I find the best protocol for you. There is so much in this 6-month program. Why all of it? That's so you can have your comeback. And so you can be transformed for what your purpose is. Now you can check out my free Wednesday night webinars at hashimotoswarrior.com/webinar. And there's added materials, or you can sign up directly for a consult with me. And that's at hashimotoswarrior.com without the /webinar. And you can, oh, by the way, with that, whoever sees this, you can sign up for if you sign up for the program, that consult is free. You can look at Dr. Livewell, dr-livewell.com, and you can see the main website, which is where our members sit. There's recipes on there and blogs that I've written. So you can take a look at that. And there's a 40-minute video there. So I'm going to tell you about one last story. And this was when I really committed to what I call my resilient life. So I'm going to take a piece of paper. I call it the line. I was at my therapist not too long ago. Sorry about that. I was at my therapist not too long ago. And it was one of those rooms where it wasn't pretty. He was actually training to be a therapist. And so I was going to him. And he was trying so many things to get me past my depression. And with thyroid, sometimes you have a lot of depression. So he says, I want you to draw a line. So I draw a line across the paper. He says, I want you to do a line here and a line here. This is birth. And this is the line where the average woman passes away. And we looked it up. It was 83 years old. He says, okay, I want you to put your age. Where are you? Well, that's about right here. I'm 67 years old. And I kind of looked at it and I thought, that's only 1.5 inches left of life. And even though I'm being kind of flippant about it right now, I really looked at that. And I thought to myself, if that's all I have left, what makes me the happiest? And for me, it's running. And so I thought, I haven't done this in 8 years, but let me see if I can do it. And I got on the treadmill, same miles per hour as I do when I walk, but I picked up my feet like I was jogging. And I did it for about a minute. I came back and I did it for 5 minutes, and I did that until I did a mile. And then I thought, can I do a 5K? Guess what? I did. And I did well, and I ran the whole way. And yes, I cried afterwards because I was so overcome. I know that no matter what life throws at you, no matter how many times you want to give up, if I can, you can heal. You can be better. I ask you, do you want to live or do you want to live well? Don't wait until you have 1.5 inches left to decide.
Well done. Do you want to know, first off, great job. Do you want to know how you did on time?
Yeah.
14 minutes and 40 seconds. Great job. Fantastic job. Great work. I know Heidi helped you with the timing and all that stuff. and you could not have done better. Very proud of you. Well done, Dr. Live Well. One more time, where can people, if people want to go to Hashimoto'sWarrior.com, where does that takes them to the ability to have a free webinar with you, correct?
Actually, so Hashimoto'sWarrior.com, they can go straight to the console. The Hashimoto'sWarrior.com/webinar is the free webinars that I do. But the consult is where you want to, engage, and we can meet on the consult. That one, I believe, also has the 40-minute video. So does dr-livewell.com. So you can see that 40-minute video is sort of a representation of like the entire program.
Excellent.
So,
and I actually have to talk to you later. There's somebody that has ALS that is wondering what to do with peptides and with different stuff. Obviously a little different than autoimmune, but figure you would be the right person to talk to about that as well.
And I will say thank you for mentioning it, because I was going to say one thing that I was one of the gal that helped me was about peptides, and I've added that to my program. So I work with quite a few peptides as well.
Last thing I want to say is you grew up in theater. You did a lot of stuff on stage when you were younger. And then I remember growing up that you just hated to be in front of a crowd of people. You hated to speak in front of people. It was a huge fear. And I would love if people knew where you were at the beginning of this class to where you are now, and the massive transformation you have made as a speaker and as an individual. And I'll have Henry speak to that in a second as well when I bring him up real quick.
Can I say that? Can I answer the question? Because you just kept on going. So first of all, I swear it's not because you're my son, but this really, one of the things that Kim and Heidi and I have talked about is how transformational it's been. So I recommend it to anyone who, if you just have to speak at work and like build up your confidence. Because I was always going last. It's so funny, I'm going first. I was always trying to escape it. Everything about it, I hated. And I don't know why. You're right. When I was younger, I was loving being on stage, but there was something that turned in my life. All I know is I'm back speaking again. I enjoy when I get out there, when I network with people. It's a whole different story than what it was when I first started the program. And yes, Henry, has been a big part of it too. But we got together. We talked about how it affected our lives, the fear that we go through on this, and it, on an emotional level, it really changes a lot. So I would recommend this to anybody. And it's my kid, and it makes me happy when he does things he loves to do too. So that's it.
Awesome. I'm going to bring Henry up, and we'll go ahead and bring you down. Any words you have, Henry? You're muted. Any words you have for Mama Russo before we bring her down?
Amazing job, Phyllis. Just seeing you on stage, and as you were going through your story and everything, and the stuff that Anthony kind of tapped into, just great work. Because I remember when it all started out, I didn't know about the background or anything like that, but you had a thing about getting on camera. Like there was like, you didn't even want to be on camera at all, like speaking in front of crowds, like Anthony said. And the fact that you went through the course and you stuck and you did it, even when you didn't know what was going to come out on the other side, is just a testament. Because I remember that moment, and I know you remember it, when you were exercising before we were getting close to the final, and you injured yourself. And you had easy out. Because this is a speaking class. You injured your mouth. You had an out. You could have said, bye-bye, Sonny boy. Hey, it's been nice, Henry. Hey, class has been great, but I can't finish because my face is been injured. And you showed up to class, and you showed up to the final, and you showed up to the additional coaching in the office hours, and you put in the work. Anything of me being there was just being there and just allowing to have the space for you to transform and go through your own personal journey. I didn't have to do anything. I just got to be there with you. So I'm grateful that you got to share that with me, but awesome job from not being able to speak, and then the injury, and you're just an amazing power, and resilience does embody you. I will say that. Anybody that is thinking about that, they know anybody, and think about it. if you know anybody that has a health issue with their nutrition or anything like that, I started working with her back in November. 207 pounds. I'm down to 182. I'm slim. I'm tracking my food and I'm eating healthy and I'm exercising. And she's in my back pocket in case, to check me when I'm going on. So this is an amazing story. I'm so proud of you, Phyllis. And yeah, just can't vouch for you enough.
She was very clear, by the way, that she purposefully did not do ab work tonight to make sure she did not smash her nose. She told me that earlier.
Yeah.
I did run, and when I said, "Well, I'm going to run outside," and I go, "I better not trip over anything." So yeah.
Well, excellent job. I'm sure you're going to be watching. We're only about 8 minutes over right now, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go, Doc. Great job, great presentation. I think everybody can see why you were one of the best speakers, and you won the competition, which is why you were 15 minutes. Clark was runner up, and he was 10 minutes. He'll be 10 minutes. Everybody else is a 5-minute presentation. Take it easy, Dr. Live Well. All right. Oh, she came back. I did that.
She's resilient.
Yeah. I keep hitting the button. There we go. Okay. Sorry. I'm realizing I might have too many windows open. Happens. Henry, thank you I'm going to drop you back down. We'll get back on time. I'll have you come up after Clark briefly. All right. Bye, Henry. I have it on the bottom. Again, this is not for my class. We do have 4 spots open for the 8-week course, but I would love instead of just directing you there to be a part of something like this, I want you guys to go and check out my free Wednesday night just to get a kind of an idea of what we do in this group and the community that it forms. So without further ado, again, part of the reason why I felt so close to this class and each of their stories, the next speaker comes from a theatrical background, somebody that is a lot of fun to listen to. He's entertaining, keeps it light. The only other man that can rock a mustache quite like I can. And he is he's an entertainer that just so happens to have an incredibly powerful story. So I'm going to go ahead and bring to the stage Mr. Clark Webb.
Hello, Anthony. How you doing, buddy?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
You sound fantastic. Are we going to have a cat make an appearance at any given point?
I mean, you never know.
Never know.
All
right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor, my friend. Clark, the floor is yours.
How's it going, everybody? My name's Clark, also known as the Sober Web. And a lot of people already have heard my story, and I'm going to switch it up on them. Not a lot, so don't freak out, Anthony, in the background, because it's going to be okay. But I was actually inspired by something I was reading this week that actually really reminded me of my own story that I'll get to in a second. And I shared it with the group. I started I call it SFC, Sobriety Fight Club. It sounds much more extreme than it really is. But it's a group of people that talk about life and spirituality and healing and everything. And I shared with them something I want to read with you. And if you're able to close your eyes, especially if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. But if you're able to, I want you to close your eyes. And I'm not going to tell you where this is from, what book it's from, but it spoke to me. And then I'm going to tell you why it spoke to me. So close your eyes and listen to what I'm about to read you, because it says, there are many conflicting feelings and ideas within us, and it is important for us to look deeply and know what is going on. When there are wars within us, it will not be long before we are at war with others, even those that we love. The violence, hatred, discrimination, and fear in society water the seeds of the violence, hatred, discrimination, and fear in us. If we go back to ourselves and touch our feelings, we will see the ways that we furnish fuel for the wars going on inside us. If we can learn ways to touch the peace, joy, and happiness that are already there, we will become healthy and strong and a resource for others. So, you can open your eyes now. The reason that spoke to me, I literally just read that like a week ago. It was not planned actually for me to read that until about like 15 minutes ago. But the reason that spoke to me in terms of sharing that with you all tonight is because 7 years ago, I was at war with myself. And 7 years ago, I didn't know it at the time, but I was starting a journey to better understand myself, to find peace within myself so I could somehow help other people, even though 7 years ago, I didn't know I wanted to help other people. And what happened was this. I woke up on October 1st, 2017, and I knew two things were very likely. I was either going to die and leave my son without a father, or I was going to do something about my alcoholism, because that was slowly killing me. And the reason I had that realization on October 1st, 2017, which is the day that I stopped drinking for good, is because a few days later, my final battle with the war in myself took place. And that war, honestly, kind of almost turned out pretty nasty. So I was in Iceland on business. I was in Reykjavik. I was all by myself. I was 3 months sober after battling alcoholism for about 13 years. And I'm sitting in a restaurant. No one knows me. I'm all alone in a country where no one knows me, which is pretty much the ideal situation for anyone who maybe is battling addiction. Because if you're anonymous and ambiguous, it's easy just to kind of disappear and give into the thirst, as I called it. But I'm sitting there in this restaurant at my hotel, and I get to bill everything to my client who's not there. I'm by myself in a restaurant, and I'm looking at this burger. It's a Wagyu beef burger, and it's some like truffle fries. And I'm about to dig in because I'm salivating, but I realize I'm actually salivating not for the food, but I'm salivating for a beer, because I'm in Iceland, and Icelandic beer sounds really nice. What goes better with a burger and fries but a beer? But I know, being 3 months sober, my second attempt at getting sober for good that year, I know that I should not drink, because I've come to terms with the fact that I have a problem. I'm an alcoholic, and I shouldn't drink. But that's the duality of addiction, good and bad. You have the demon on one shoulder, you've got the angel on the other. One's telling you to do it, the other one's telling you not to do it. And unfortunately, in that instance, I was in a subconscious self-sabotage mode, because honestly, back home, I had a failing marriage and I was scared and I didn't know how to get out of it. So I figured if I just self-sabotaged, someone else would have to make the decision. So I drank. I broke my sobriety of 3 months. I drank, but I stopped after 2 beers. And I went to bed that night. And I remember feeling really proud of myself. Like, I have control. Like, I don't have a problem. I can stop once I start. And that's the insidious part of alcoholism or addiction, is that you trick yourself into believing that you can control it. And before I tell you what happens next, I just want to explain to people really quickly what addiction's kind of like, because I know there's probably a lot of people that don't struggle with alcohol or don't struggle with drugs or don't struggle with something that they can't stop once they start. But that's what addiction is. And I like to tell people it's like poison ivy. Like we all can kind of probably relate to poison ivy, whether we've had it or not. If you scratch it, it gets worse. And we know we shouldn't scratch it, but it itches so much, we scratch it and we scratch it and it gets out of control. It can even get to the point where we have to see a doctor and we have to get medication. But the beautiful thing about poison ivy is that if you don't scratch it, it will go away. And the same thing applies to addiction and alcoholism, but it's just obviously really hard to get there. So back to my story. The next morning I wake up and I have scratched the poison ivy that is my addiction, and it takes over my conscious, my subconscious, my spirit all day. All I can think about is having another drink. And so I imbibe during lunch with a little bit of wine, but again, I stop and I'm in control. And then that night, we go out to a bar that's got like this big stone wall. It's Iceland. Let me tell you, it's a land of lava and ice. It's a bar. It's got a stone wall, and there's like a brass spout coming out of the wall. And I find out there's Manhattans being poured on draft out of the wall. And whiskey was always my nemesis. And I knew I shouldn't have a Manhattan, but my friend was having one. So I had a sip and I said, I probably shouldn't have one. But there's those famous last words. I probably shouldn't have one, but I did. And that's it. That's it. I wake up the next morning in my hotel bed, and I have no idea how I got there. And come to find out, if it wasn't for a very compassionate colleague of mine, I would have passed out blackout drunk on the streets of Reykjavik. So wasn't the first time in my life where I actually was found asleep on the streets of a city and helped to my bed. So the only thing that I can do is feel guilt and shame. It's the instant go-to when you know that you've screwed up and you gave in and you're weak and you're diseased and you have a problem and you're never going to get any help and no one's ever going to understand. And so I take that guilt and shame, I take that disease mentality, I take that hopelessness that this is the rest of my life all the way back to the States. And I ease myself through the hangover with some nips on the plane. And I get back to Terminal E in Boston, which is the terminal where international flights come in. And who's waiting to meet me is my little boy, who's 2 at the time. And he runs up to me. He's so happy to see me. And I'm so happy to see him. And I pick him up and I hug him. And it's just, I mean, he's just obviously my everything. But all I can think about is alcohol, because I'm in the throes of the end of the war with alcoholism. And that's when it gets really, really bad. And so all I can think about is alcohol. And so later that night, I have a 5th of vodka. And that's the beginning of a couple days of binging that leave me on the floor October 1st, 2017, where I knew I was going to die or I was going to live. And it was later that day that I was watching my son run around play, and he was laughing and giggling, and I just didn't know what to do. I was deep in the hopelessness and despair. That's a rock bottom where you just don't know how you're going to get out. And just, I heard finally a new voice, not the voice of you don't have a problem, not the voice of, you know, you can control it, but a new voice that just said, you are meant to be more. And that's just said, you are meant to be more. And even though I had no idea what that meant, and I had no idea who I was supposed to become, that was the only thing that I needed in that moment. It was that sliver of hope and pure hopelessness that allowed me to commit to never drinking alcohol again. And not just that, but to not letting my life be defined by my struggles with alcohol or my past or my mistakes or the fact that I picked my son up and all I could think about was alcohol. I was not going to be defined by that. And now I'm almost 8 years sober. That was, like I said, that was the beginning of my journey to find peace within myself, to understand myself. And now I've built a community and a brand called The Sober Web. I mean, I go by The Sober Web, but it's also more obviously than just me. It's a community of a place where people can know that they're not alone and that they don't have to be defined by their past and that they don't have to label themselves anything if they don't want to for the rest of their life. And I'm writing a book around all of it. So if any of this speaks to you, I hope that you'll find me on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or even YouTube and just join the community. That way, when the book is published, I can send you a copy. But most importantly, I just want everyone to know who's listening, whether you struggle with drugs or alcohol or whatever your addiction is, because we all have addictions. We all have something that we use to cope or to numb out or to check out on life. Whatever that problem is, you are not defined by it. You are not the results of yesterday. You're not the labels that people want to tell you that you are. You are not your guilt and shame. There is hope. Even in the hopelessness, there is hope. I like to say that I'm proof of it, but I know there's so many more people that have proven what is possible in the face of addiction and afterwards. So keep going. You get to create the life that you want. And I know that one day you too can stand up and say that I am meant to be more and I will be more. Thanks so much. Bye.
Great job, Clark. Loved it. Loved it. I'm going to bring Henry up right away as well. Real quick, I always love to make sure people know where can they find you. You said The Sober Web. Is there any specific place you want to direct them to exactly if they want to work with you?
I would say probably YouTube, because I've got a lot of like my links to Google Forms and stuff for signing up. But I have all the same kind of Google Form links pretty much everywhere, Facebook or TikTok or YouTube.
Perfect. Henry, what'd you think?
Man, he threw a curveball like Clark does. Like he switches things up in the last second. And, you know, just first to commend you, brother, on the 8 years sober, man. You know, like to keep putting it in and what it takes, and whenever to fight every relapse off, and just to have that consistency, man. It says a lot about you and your commitment to the sober web and everything, man. So just shout out for that, man. But Anthony, I mean, it was a great talk, man. I mean, he always has a way of bringing your heart in. And that first thing about the war within us, man, like you could have, I was like the mic drop moment, you know, and just start off with the mic drop moment. That was like amazing with the war and the passage of the book. You're going to definitely have to shoot me that passage and the book it came from, brother. But yeah, it's so good about the war in between us, man. And the way that you support people. You've mentioned to me the people that you support out there in the world. So all the time. So I know how big of a cause it is for you, man. And it's amazing talk. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I love you. Your eye contact was killer. So great job on that. That was literally the only feedback we could possibly give Clark during his final presentation. But you crushed that. I didn't want it to end. I want to hear you talk for an hour, even though addiction's not my thing. But it's the way you talk about you finding your higher purpose and your calling and all that. It's great. I want to really quick thank Casey and Waz for sharing this, because now we're over 3 figures. We got over 100 people watching on X and different places. So welcome to everybody. Clark, I want to give you final words, you know, and I love the testimony that you gave of this class, but I would love to hear you, what it meant to you to kind of be a part of this container.
It was challenging in ways that I was not expecting. Like I think I said in my testimony, honestly, I think I brought some arrogance into it, not knowing what was in store for me. But you have a way of really connecting with people and helping them kind of bring out the transformative voice within them. And you pushed me to go back to a time that honestly I hadn't really spent a lot of time revisiting. That was honestly kind of painful in a lot of ways, but actually at the same time it was really healing, because sometimes we take those catalysts, those rock bottoms for granted, those pain points, and we forget actually how pivotal they are in our life. And then just, of course, the friendship and the group and the people, and just getting to see everyone transform so much, some close friends and new close friends. It's just really honestly quite beautiful. Like Phyllis, I mean, I just can't even right now. She is like so light and day, like from like what, like, you know, she started with, like, that was just crazy powerful what she just did there. And I can't wait to see everyone else as well. So yeah, I mean, I think everyone deserves to have their voice awakened or honed or nurtured, and you do a great job of it. So
thanks, Clark. It's been my pleasure. And you're a perfect example of people that you have the ability to speak to people that I can't. I've never, and not bragging, but I've never battled an addiction. My dad was a compulsive gambler, but I've never battled what you have. So you have the ability to relate to people on a completely different level, and your voice is your power in that. So thank you so much, Clark, for joining. I'm going to go ahead and drop you down. Thank you very much. Great job.
You guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm seeing the three of us on the camera, and I'm like, man, if I would have known the stash thing, because I don't grow facial hair. It would have took me like 3 weeks to prepare for this event just to grow the mustache for you guys. Because I was looking at you guys, you got a killer stash, he's got one, and I'm all baby. Yeah.
You know, some of us are real men. Anyways, I'll see you in a little bit. Henry, drop you down. All right, we're going to go ahead and go to our next speaker. I want to remind you guys, there's something that, you know, I had this conversation earlier today. One of my favorite speakers, favorite authors is Mel Robbins. She's fantastic. And part of speaking is knowing that when you're on the microphone, when you're talking to somebody, you are an authority. Doesn't mean that your life has to be perfect. I listen in between the lines when I hear Mel Robbins talking, and I listen to her book and different things. And she's a perfect example. You hear her talk about the fact that she's got a psychologist. She's got multiple coaches. She has multiple breakdowns. She goes through stuff just like every single one of us. So in order to be a speaker, I think there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs that you say, who am I to actually be able to talk to somebody and be an authority? When I can tell you one of the biggest authors of our generation, that biggest authors of our generation right now is somebody that does not have it always together, plain and simple. So remember that when you think about whether or not your voice matters. Join me on a Wednesday night free speaking class, doubledownspeaking.com. It's like Toastmasters and steroids. It is fun, but without further ado, it is time to bring up our next speaker. This is another perfect example of the differences that everybody comes in with. Like Clark, theater background. My mom was already coaching. She was coaching people and already working on that. Kim just wanted to figure out where her voice was going. She wanted to do something a little bit higher level. She's an HR professional. She's fantastic. She has this fun, dry sense of humor, and she is an absolute delight to hang out with and listen to. And I'm looking very forward to her speech and her fun background. So without further ado, Kim Bain, how's it going?
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. I love your background. I love where you've come from the beginning to now, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you are going to bless everybody with. Keep putting comments in the chat, everybody. I appreciate you, and I bring them up in between. But without further ado, Kim, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. We've all had bad bosses, right? Poor communicators, unrealistic expectations. Thankfully, my career started differently. I started as a production line worker at a cheese plant in a small town in Wisconsin. Moved into an operator role, eventually moving into an HR role. I spent a total of 10 years at that plant. I fondly call it my formative years, where I grew up. I had some really great bosses there and a lot of great experiences. And no, we did not cut the cheese. I don't know why everyone thinks that's funny, but anyway, seriously, that decade shaped my career, teaching me the value of hard work and honest communication in a workplace where people truly spoke their minds. And then came my next job, and that's where my bad boss from hell story began. But first, my name is Kim Bain. I have been in HR for over 20 years. I have a master's in leadership and organizational effectiveness. And today I'm going to discuss the impacts of leadership. But before I get to my story, let's have some fun. So have you ever seen the movie Office Space? If not, don't worry, I'll set the stage, and I'm not an actress, but just imagine a sea of cubicles. It's late on a Friday, and just as Peter is making his great escape for the weekend, Bill the boss strolls up with his coffee cup in hand, ready to drop his infamous passive-aggressive request. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. So if you could be here around 9 MK, like right, classic scene. And to some degree, we can all totally relate to that. Let me share my first bad boss from hell story. So as 2008, the recession neared, my cheese plant that I talked about announced its closure. But I was in my last college semester, and I had my heart set on moving to Appleton, Wisconsin, a slightly bigger town, and getting that corporate gig. And wouldn't you know it, I landed the job, and boom, just like that, my life changed. Moving from a factory to a corporate setting felt like swapping my steel-toed boots for dress shoes. One was raw, the other was a maze of etiquette and forced smiles. And if you know me, I hate forced smiles. So shortly after starting my new job, my teammates hit me with a warning I'll never forget. Our boss is like living with an alcoholic spouse. Wait, what? My new boss that I just moved my family over here for is like living with an alcoholic spouse? Like, what did I get myself into? And let me tell you, she did not disappoint. A year and a half later, I quit. And that was the second time I quit. But that's a story for another day because I don't have time to talk about that one. But it was rough. So, to add some humor to it, if only we could return our bosses like Amazon gifts, right? Like no questions asked, free return shipping, and maybe even a refund. Wouldn't that be great? I would love it. As the old saying goes, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. To this day, over a decade later, I still dread one-on-ones with my boss. Not the same boss that I had that experience with, my new boss, but it still sticks with me to this day, over a decade later. And if you've never had a one-on-one, just consider yourself lucky. Looking back though, it was miserable, but every step shaped my career and taught me the kind of leader I never wanted to be. Now, having shared my lesson, let's shift gears and imagine what a good leader might look like. So think of leadership as a beautifully wrapped gift. Each part represents key traits. Visualize if you can. The box represents vision. It provides structure and direction. The wrapping paper symbolizes empowerment, enhancing a team and inspiring trust. The ribbon ties it all together, just like authentic communication unites a team. The bow represents leading by example because actions speak louder than words. And finally, the gift tag is recognition, a simple yet powerful way to fuel motivation and loyalty. Great leadership isn't just about the gift, it's about how you present it. Now think about my story. While it was extremely short and there was a whole lot of gaps that someday I can fill in for you, that wasn't my experience. The great Simon Sinek once said, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. So let's not be that terrible Amazon gift that everyone wants to return, or that one-on-one that someone dreads a decade later. My current CEO once wisely said, in a room of 600 leaders, if employees are happy, everything else fixes itself. Now I want to leave you with one last question. Who was the best boss that you've ever had? And what made them stand out? Thank you.
There it is. Sorry about that, Kim. I pushed the button 3 times. I believe I definitely have too many windows. You know, it's funny. I had even a joke to the last thing you said, and because I was getting so panicky, hitting the button. I don't even remember what the joke was, but it was to go along with one of the last things you said. Great job. I love the ability. First off, you put it all together from the actual final. So I love where you went with it. And I just love the fact that there's a different voice and a different element and something else you can bring to the audience that's very like practical in today's in work and in business and all the different things that we do. So before I let you go, can you let people know if they want to find you or where they could find you if they want to work with you anymore?
Yeah, sure. I don't have anything formal. My email is kimberlybain@ymail.com. They can get a hold of me through Facebook at Kimberly Springmeyer Bain, or contact Anthony and he can help you get in contact with me.
Facts on facts. A lot of great comments. There you go. Fun. Yeah, you do have the Office Space sense of humor, so I do love that. I'll bring up Henry real quick, and then we're going to go to the next one. Henry, what'd you think of Kim? I pressed the button on Henry? It worked right away. Go ahead, Henry.
Kim, great speech. And, whenever I think about you, the first word that comes on mind is brave, because, the type of speaking course that this is, you're not really coming from the coaching business. You're not coming from this angle of a product or anything. You just wanted to get your communication better. And you're just proof of many ways that you can come to this class and work on something, as you came in, because you were so brave coming into this transformational setting where everybody's putting a lot of emotions on the line, and you were able to show the emotional, turmoil that you were going through with the job and the HR, and then you brought the humor in. Like, the humor is nuts, because you're so brave and you take on task, and then you can bring the humor. I would love to work for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That is a huge compliment. Thank you.
Yeah.
And real quick question from you, for you, Kim. Since you came into this a little bit like one of our students now, Megan, like not knowing exactly what you wanted to do from a speaking perspective, but you knew that this was something that would challenge you. What did you think of the experience as somebody that is not really sure what the speaking direction is?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I wanted to just be comfortable in front of a camera. I'm not used to being on Zoom all the time. COVID kind of changed that. Still wasn't used to it up until recently, and now being on camera is much easier for me. But it also, like, I dug deeper into, okay, what's going on mentally with me? Like, what do I need to figure out? So connections in the class and talking with people and just getting some thoughts and ideas. Like, I ventured down hypnosis and all these other things, 90 breath work, things like that. So I highly recommend this course. It totally took me out of my comfort zone. I'm not a social media content person, but I'm definitely just more comfortable even being on this platform. So thank you.
Oh, great job, Kim. I'm going to go ahead and bring you down. I appreciate it. You did fantastic. Great job. All right, that button worked. Thank goodness. All right. Henry, are we ready? Yeah, we're ready. We've got, just so you know, everybody else, so they're all doing 5-minute presentations. The rest of it, we've got Heidi, Brenda, Lindsay, Cash, if he shows up, and Ryan Woods. That's how we're gonna bring the party. So our next speaker is going to be Heidi. Henry, I will bring you down. I can't be mean. I don't want Beth said that I was rude.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Beth.
I got to be kind. All right. With that said, we are ready for our next speaker. I'll preview. There's a chance that we might cry. That's just what we do. That's what Heidi and I do together. We find a way to make each other cry. So Carolyn had that effect. Heidi has this effect. So Donna and I also, Donna, if you're watching, I have one crier in each one, and this is the one. So I'm looking forward to hearing her speak. She is phenomenal. She is somebody that is as heart-centered as any individual you will ever meet, and wants to just definitely have a life of service and a fantastic human being, period. So I'm going to introduce to the stage Heidi Shaw. Heidi, how's it going?
Good. And I just want to clarify, we don't make each other cry. You make me cry.
Well, I cry too. You sometimes well, because when you cry, I cry. It's whatever. Anyway, Heidi, have fun. The floor, and I hope that at the end when I hit the button, I come up. But if not, just go ahead and just
I'll riff.
Yeah, there you go. All right, take it easy. The floor is yours.
All right. So I lost my identity 30 years ago. Growing up, my home was a revolving door of very interesting people, all colors, all backgrounds, long-haired hippies, bearded biker dudes, handicapped people, Holocaust survivors. We were taught that no one was beneath us. Everyone was welcome in our home, and any new person we met was a potential new friend. And you would think with that kind of background with people that I would have been good at reading them. Not so. My openness to people made me the perfect mark. I didn't see this guy coming. I married a man who had mastered the art of manipulation, eventually controlling every aspect of my life, from our finances to my social life to my self-confidence to my identity. Blamed me for everything, put the burden of everything onto my shoulders. His manipulation was extreme, and I was at his mercy. 30 years of his kind of abuse, his rage and relentless control just kept me on the edge all the time, and eventually just left me empty and isolated. And even now, there's a little voice inside me that says, you should have known better. Because you see, I had multiple college degrees in psychology and animal behavior. Heck, I even have a PhD in psychology. But in the midst of an abusive marriage, I was incapable of helping myself. I didn't even know that I actually still had power. And then July 2018 came. He cried wolf again, threatening suicide again. But this time I didn't crumble. I called his bluff and I called 911. I picked up my cat and a bag of clothes and I ran without a plan. And I really dislike dredging up the dark part of my life, but the lesson that I learned from it was profound for me. And that, contrary to what a lot of people says, for me, my past does define me. I am an accumulation of all of my experiences, and my past identity is actually gone. And now I stand on her shoulders, and I'm a tougher cookie thanks to her. So rebuilding my life meant reclaiming ownership of who I was. And at some point, I realized that I have been doing that same exact thing for people for decades, because I teach at a community college, a place that welcomes everybody, just like I was as a kid. And my students range from teens to retirees, loggers who lost their livelihood, combat veterans looking for purpose, single parents looking to make their lives better. And the best part of my job is advising, where I work one-on-one with people, and we work together to figure out who they are, what they want, and how to get there. And I love that part of my job so much that I created a coaching business that does just that. And I help people figure out how their past experiences have value, figure out what their values are now. We work together to find a career path that aligns with what their values are. And then we map out how they're going to move forward. And probably the most important thing that I try to instill in them is to be open, because sometimes the path that you're kind of planning isn't always the best, and unanticipated opportunities can be priceless. So if you're at a crossroads, or if you know somebody that is, let's talk. And my website is right down there, researchforward.org. And Anthony knows how to get a hold of me if you want to email me. And a good friend of mine once told me that I seem to want to help a younger version of myself. But the thing is, there's nobody like me, and there's nobody like my former self, my younger self, just like there's nobody like you, because all of your past experiences are what make you unique. And for every today, you have the chance to decide how you're going to use those past experiences to create the future that you want. And I wish you all the best on that journey. So I thank you all for listening, and thank you, Anthony, for organizing this. Appreciate it.
Ooh, the button worked this time. Heidi, great job. You got some great comments. Let's see. Catherine said, I hear you and that you are a great connector. Such a great delivery. I mean, again, words can't. I remember when you started coming on the classes, you were friends with Jay and Carolyn, and you had something in you. We called it the Heidi pause, where it was almost that moment where you were finding exactly what you wanted to say, but I think it was actually a microcosm for you in general. Like, you are very calculated, you are very calm, and you are very paced. And there's something about you that is always introspective and thinking. And then now you're just this person that's just got something to say, and you're finally saying it. Your body language is different. You have so much power. Oh, look, Carolyn, right when I was mentioning her, she just hopped in. So she said she made it just in time for you. But it's just that it's the same as you and Carolyn, very similar. It's like there was these slight self-limiting beliefs in your voice, and you're just a different person. And I love hearing it. I love hearing your voice. So real quick, if people want to find you, it's researchforward.org. You can obviously go through my pages if you want to reach out directly to Heidi. She's got a lot of big things coming, and a lot of that change to start creating change in other people's lives. So I'll have Henry pop up one time and give his words real quick. Henry, go for it.
Authenticity, and that was what I heard throughout the whole entire thing. But I just want to say, like, I feel your power. You were one of those stories throughout the whole entire process of the class that was just like, that's a deep transformational story to go through. It was serious, and it took some attention, and you stood your ground and you worked through it. And I liked about you is the strength that you have, is that you don't even just take any coaching. You let your coaches, or you would let Anthony know anytime in the Wednesday class or in the class, like, I don't agree with that. And that was such a great respect I had for you, to be able to be honest with yourself and your identity. And you could tell the transformation that you had been through to get to the class. And it's just great to see your story, out here now, and the way that it's going to touch people, the way in the comments, people are lighting up the comments like, Heidi, your story connects with people, of going through relationships, and it makes an impact in the world. So keep doing your work. I love it.
Thank you.
Heidi, real quick, you also left a fantastic testimonial for the class as somebody that also didn't quite know what you were getting yourself into, but you knew that it felt right. What can you say about the experience for you?
So I signed up. I went to the Wednesday classes first, and I did it specifically because I was, despite the fact that I've taught for 30 years, I've given public presentations, I still am petrified of public speaking. And I don't think well on my feet. And sometimes when I'm anxious, my brain just goes black. There's nothing there. And so I gained so much from that Wednesday class, being able to think on my feet. And Henry mentioned that it feels like a safe space, and that it does. And so I was able to get past that, so I could, on my feet, not have that blank emptiness. And that's what prompted me to take the class. And the class itself, I was taking it for speaking, and I ended up getting therapy. And so it just was a powerful class. And I think the community, the safe space, it leaves me speechless because it was so powerful, and I can't thank you guys enough for my growth, because I
love it. Well, it's
couldn't have done it without you.
This group's going to be very hard to replace, because you guys each just were so dedicated to not just speaking, but transforming who you were. So thank you so much, Heidi. Great job. Fantastic job. Loved hearing it. And I love that you stuck with the story. I love that you stuck with it and found a way to still overcome it. So I love it. Thanks, Heidi.
Thanks.
All right, Henry, you ready to go on to the next one? We've got the husband and wife duo, but that we've separated them. I saw Ryan in the screen for a bit, but I saw Brenda kick him out. So we're going to have Brenda coming up next. My preface to this is what her and Ryan have been through in the last couple of months, from personal life to Ryan fighting fires in LA and being gone 6 hours, 7, 8 hours from home, and still being able to finish and come up with these amazing speeches, and also seeing them in their own life on their social media speaking. So much more talent than I think they had any realization that they had. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up Brenda. Henry, I'm going to drop you down.
All right. See you later, man.
I just hit the button. I love the delay. I'm literally closing windows as we go, trying my best. We've got about 158 people watching right now. So if you guys can't, do me a favor, like this video, share this video, do all said things with this video. All right. Next speaker from California. We put her in the hubs a little bit later because they're on West Coast time. But without further ado, introducing to the stage, Brenda Woods.
Hey.
Hey, Brenda.
How are you doing?
Doing good. You guys got here on time. I knew that I wanted to give you guys a little bit later, but you've been here the whole time. I've been watching you guys in back. Without further ado, though, I will let you go. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. So how do I do it? People that I'm around, who I work with and stuff, they ask me, Brenda, how do you do it? And I say, do what? And they say, well, you've been through so much the last few years and through your life. And, you've lost your dad, and you lost your daughter, and you lost your mom in such a short amount of time. And now you're raising 3 children. How do you keep going? So my natural response is, well, because I have to, I don't have a choice. And I realize that's not true. I do have a choice. We all have choices. And when I think about my life, it really comes down to 2 things: choice and perseverance. So I could choose to run away and hide, like I've done a lot in my past. I've done that multiple times. Or I can choose to face what is placed in front of me and just move forward. So perseverance for me is just moving forward despite the difficulties in my life, the failures that I've had, and the oppositions I'm going to face today and even in my future. I've had to stop and reevaluate my life. And I had to decide what really truly mattered to me. So yes, I did lose a fair amount of my family members. I lost my daughter. I'm raising her 3 children, but I refuse to carry the weight of all that guilt. Guilt is not for me to own. It's not for anybody to own when they lose a family member, because guilt changes nothing. Grief, on the other hand, grief allows you to heal if you let it. And anger kind of drives me to succeed. So I don't let anger get in the way. So emotions for me are like tools. You can use them to push forward, or you kind of can let them control you and hold you down until all you have left is depression and regret. And then pretty soon you have tons of health issues that you have no control over. So it's not easy, but it is a choice. And perseverance is something that most people don't really realize that they have. And it allows you to keep moving forward. That drives me, just my perseverance. And my family, you know, they'll always be with me, whether they're in the physical form or whether they're in the spirit form. We kind of get attached to that physical touch, but in the spirit form, they'll always be with me, and nobody can take that from me. So I choose to celebrate the time I had with them and not mourn the time that I no longer have. And I can't change the fact that we all move on at some point. You know, God has given us the biggest gift of all, and that's memories. And for that, I'm super grateful. So how do I do it? Well, I have 3 children that are counting on me. I have a mom who's also my daughter, who is counting on me to teach her children to do the things that she could no longer teach them or do. And the people I've lost just live through me. And it's up to me to either keep their spirit alive, or I can let them disappear forever. And I just refuse to let that happen. So for me to you, if you're struggling, just stop. Take a deep breath and reevaluate what's been presented to you in your life. We only get one shot at life. So ask yourself, how do I want to spend this time? Because the clock is still ticking, and you can choose to live, or you can just simply exist. And just existing is not an option for me. And what would my loved ones want for me? What would they want for you? Because I can guarantee for you, they wouldn't want you to live in pain and regret and guilt and all the stuff that goes along with losing people in your life. And what does happiness look like? I think we lose happiness a lot in our lives. And one of my favorite singers, Daniel John, said, if you can imagine it, then you can create it. And that just resonates with me. And then what changes can I make to live a more fulfilled life? Because nothing changes unless you change. And I made this little goal chart, and I made it into an acronym. It's goals. It's the word goals. So G for me is get healthy, because if you're not healthy, you're not good to yourself. Take one day at a time. You can't change the past. You can't read the future. So live just one day at a time. Just be present in today, and everything else will fall into place. Affirmations lead to confidence. Don't talk down about yourself. Give yourself affirmations. You deserve that much. And love yourself. Nobody can love you more than you can love yourself, and that will take you a long ways in life. And set healthy boundaries, not only for yourself, to yourself, but set boundaries around those around you. And it all comes down to choices. And when I was in my early 30s, I'm going to tell you a little story. When I was in my early 30s, I learned to snowboard, and I wanted to go pro so bad, but obviously the reality was I was a little too old to go pro. But in my mind, I was a legend on the hill, but I rode like I was going to accomplish that goal. And even though I'd never be in the X Games or anything like that, I lived as though I was a professional snowboarder. And I used to read all these snowboarding magazines, and I would make these collages to kind of uplift myself. And I came across this quote, and it was, the only limitations we have are the ones we impose on ourselves. And that hit home for me. So whenever I get to that place where I just want to give up, and it just looks like life is just not going to be where I want it, no matter what the reasons are, I go back to that quote. The only limitations we have are the ones we impose on ourselves. And that's how I do it. Thanks.
Yes. Great job, Brenda. I love it. What people don't know, the struggles you guys went through, from the point of do you guys even finish the course? You finish it? Do you go whatever it might be? And you've had family issues and so many different things happen. And you continue to surprise me at how good you are at this speaking thing. I know you guys have the paranormal show, and you have that on your own and all that stuff. And you've done speaking on that, but when it comes to speaking about yourself, it's much harder. And you've had the ability to transcend all of that. And I know on top of it all, you were telling me that you were injured, you had a sore in your mouth, and you're talking through it. And you even have Ryan next to you laughing when you're talking about being a professional snowboarder. You handled that fantastic. I loved it. Great job, Brenda. I'm going to bring up Henry real quick. We've got Lindsay, our next speaker, in back. But before then, Henry, go for it.
Hey, Brenda.
Hey.
Brenda, just for feedback. It's the thing that keeps popping in my head is how you were so hesitant to be on camera and so like, oh, I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to be on camera. And it's just like, yeah. And it's something that we could see the whole entire way. Because even when you made that, we knew that it wasn't true, and, the transformation that you went through to see that it was true, just, because you have such an awareness about you. You're so aware of everything on you. Like there's no situation thrown your way that you can't handle.
Yeah,
And the
thank you.
testaments of the fire and everything that people don't know. They live in Northern California, Southern
Yeah.
California. All the rich people stuff was burning up. Ryan got called, his whole fleet, everybody came down here and they did a class. And that is a story of the transformation that happens behind in the class, that these guys, Brenda went through fire literally, and she was the supporter while Ryan had to go do the work. And she held the family down, and she held the course down, and she got her voice out there. And I'm just so happy to have a Brenda out there in the world that is out there causing motion and people that do things with their lives. So thank you.
Oh, I really like this class. I think a lot of people should take it, whether you're going to do it professionally or just in your everyday work life, because it builds your confidence to get up and do this. And you guys have all been so great, and it's been very comfortable. Even though I look uncomfortable, it's been a very comfortable, safe place.
You do not look uncomfortable. And the one thing you shared, or the one thing you did after the class was over, where I was like, I felt like I had something to do with that. And I know that you're passionate about what happens in your local community, but watching you, and I know you had a script and you were reading it it doesn't matter. Even reading takes the ability to inflect and all that stuff. And you were doing like one of the rants in your local community, whatever those whatever those are called.
Yeah, the board meetings.
Board meetings. And I'm watching your 3 minutes that you got, and you absolutely annihilated them in a way that I'm like, oh, she destroyed them. This is one of the ones that people share the videos of how to interact with the board members when you want to create change in your community. So you are very fun to watch, and fun to watch grow and be strong in the fact that you deserve to be on a camera. You should be on a camera. Your story is worthy on a camera, and you're overcoming the way you have is worthy to be on a camera. So thank you so much, Brenda. And you already said what you thought of the class, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just dropped her down. Did the button work? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's glitchy.
There we go. It's not glitchy. It's the fact that
she's back.
Oh, I brought her back up. She's alive. She's like, oh man, it's about to take my shirt off.
This is real, y'all. This is real. This is real.
Oh, it's so good. There's a lot of great comments on that one. Phyllis said, needed to hear what you were saying. Catherine, who's been watching the whole time. I love it, Catherine. And she came to one of the classes. This is actually somebody I believe, Henry, correct? I think she came because you guys were, and she's going to probably come to Wednesday next week. So yeah, a lot was done in that 5.5 minutes. Fantastic job. Catherine. All right. Before we go on, we're a little bit behind on time, but I think just as a heads up to Ryan, we've got Lindsay and then probably you, because like the darkness that happens with Cash, he has entered the void, even though I talked to him earlier. And Lindsay gave me a little scare because she wasn't here until a couple minutes ago. And I'm like, are you going to join us? But she is here. So with that, and Catherine says hello. Anything you want to say before we move on to our next speaker?
No, I'm ready. Like, I'm in the flow of speakers now. I'm just listening to stories backstage, and I'm loving it. I hope the audience is getting as much value too, because I'd love to see them up here too next time.
Yes, sir. All right, Henry, I'm going to drop you down. Please. All right, our next speaker, it's funny because but just so you know, all the speakers, we didn't do a run through on StreamYard. We do our classes on Zoom. And it's funny that you guys are just being so natural with it. You're doing a great job. I brought Lindsay into the back room, and I think she thought that I could hear her because we were both in the back room. She was talking. I'm like, is she practicing her speech, or does she think that I can hear her? And then I realized that she thinks that we're actually having a conversation. So it was quite funny. All right. She's laughing right now. I might as well just bring her on while she's laughing. So our next speaker is Lindsay Kelly. I'm going to go ahead and while you're speaking, I'll go ahead and put your handle on the bottom. Lindsay and I have a great story, and I want to share it before she gets started, because I don't think that's part of her speech. But the way that we connected is I was watching a video that she has that has, I believe, around 80 million views on Instagram, if that's accurate. Is it about 80 million? 80 million? Yeah. Not going to brag. That's fine. So she had this video, and it was her and her husband. Her husband's got multiple sclerosis. So obviously that resonates with me because of my dad having MS. And I just sat in the car watching this video, and her husband's sense of humor and the way that he related to the disease was absolutely hit home, and felt like it was my dad. So I just started scrolling through her photos and just was like sitting there bawling in my car. My dad passed away about 10 years ago, and there was just such a resonance to her story. So I had to send her a message to tell her, and we developed, very similar to Cash, by the way. We developed this friendship because for some odd reason, she read my comment and we ended up becoming friends with it. She ended up taking the course, and she's also got her own branding stuff where she helps people do the same thing, share their story, kind of like what I'm doing, but from a specific viral perspective. And she just loves people and loves helping people and loves being of service. And if you need to follow her, I'll put the handle up there. But we'll talk to her at the end. Without further ado, Lindsay, are you ready to go? Did I build you up enough?
That was awesome. And my microphone died. I was wearing a microphone right before, like literally right when you said, come on, my microphone died. So hopefully you can hear me.
Was that what you were doing with your hands before?
Oh, no, I was totally, that was straight up talking to you. Okay. Anyway.
Good thing I can read lips. I still couldn't understand what you said. All right. You sound just fine, by the way. Don't think about the microphone. It literally sounds completely fine. So without further ado, though, Lindsay, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy to be here, and that was a great introduction. I loved how Anthony and I met. So I want to share with you, have you ever had this feeling inside of you that you needed to share your story, or there was this pull inside of you that you were supposed to do something more? I had that same feeling, but before I share that, I want to talk to you about my story. And in 2019, my husband was diagnosed with progressive MS. And when he got diagnosed with progressive MS, it completely rocked my world upside down. I became my husband's caregiver overnight. I was also told that he was no longer going to be able to provide for our family, and I was a stay-at-home mom of our 6 children. And I was completely overwhelmed. In fact, I remember saying to my family that overwhelmed wasn't a strong enough word for what I was feeling. I was exhausted. I was completely broken. I had to redefine who I was. And I had this moment where I had to go, I went to work, and I got a job. And I was leaving my
Hey, Lindsay, I think you're chopping up just a little bit. Is that my end or your? Yeah, it's
family
no, you're chopping
at a
up.
time
Yeah,
that
you're
they
good.
needed.
Just out of curiosity, do you still have the Facebook Live running? I know I said maybe ditch it before.
Could you?
Oh, no, your microphone kind of came back, then it went away. You're all good. Technical difficulties that I've been having as well today. So, mic check. Talk to me again. You're freezing up a little bit. You were completely fine, and then it all of a sudden friggity froze. You're good. Take a second.
Hold on. Let me see if I can. Is there like a cam or audio? Here we go. Let me see.
You're all good. No, still can't hear you. Try it again.
Hear me?
No, you got a little bit here. I got an idea. I'm going to go ahead and have you speak. You're
What?
good. I'm going to have you. Well, this is actually the best way to do it. I'm going to have you drop out and then leave the page. Go ahead and hit StreamYard. Come back in. Sound good? If you can hear me. All right, Lindsay, if you can hear, yeah, there, she figured it out. All right, good. Don't worry, Ryan. You might be up sooner than we expected, but we're gonna give her a second. Henry just spit out his water. Did you just lose water coming out? So while we're waiting for Lindsay, just a little bit, really quick. First off, when it comes to all the different things the stories that everybody is sharing, and the ability to articulate your thoughts. And obviously what Lindsay was talking about, and she's back on, we'll see if it works. There's so much power in being able to help people in service. And that is part of the things with voice. And one of the things that Lindsay did for us is she even took the time to do a very specific presentation for our group on social media as well, which is part of one of the things people go through the class. If you've got something to share, and Beth, who's going to be in our next group, she does breath work, and she's going to be offering some of her services to the group as well. Another great thing about the community behind the group, not just learning how to speak, but helping each other. Let's see if Lindsay, move around for me. Let me see if
because Lindsay was a shock when you said Lindsay was coming in, and you introduced to who she was and introduced me to her, and I was like, she's got 80 million views, and what does she possibly could get from your transformational speaking course from us? What can she possibly get? And of course, the course worked its magic, and here she is. So here we go.
Let's see if we can hear you, Lindsay. Son of a bee sting. Still no. No, make sure.
Static tries to stop the stars, man. She's a star, Static is just trying to hold you up. What?
She gonna try the phone. You're gonna pop on the phone.
Should I get on my phone?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, all of a sudden I could hear.
Then we heard her.
What is happening?
What's happening?
Christina's on there as well. But yeah, the whole idea of just being a part of a community and being able to give each other the assistance and learn from each other. And that's what, I'm in some powerful groups. The Christian Entrepreneurship Club is one of them. They've had a couple people join. Eric Konovalov, who's actually in the class right now, and also his group, Relentless Goal Achievers, and having that community where people can help each other. It's a huge deal. So it helps across the board. Let's see if this works. Let's see what we got.
Can you hear me?
Way better.
Yeah.
All right.
Stop it. What was up with my internet?
I bet your kids are gaming. I guarantee you your kids are gaming.
Okay, I actually had that thought. I'm like, maybe they're on the VR or something.
They were. It's okay. So now I don't know if you know where you were, but you were about 10 or 20 seconds where I was actually about to make a phone call to Cash, and I'm like, wait, why is it silent?
Oh, okay. So you couldn't hear me? Like, could you even hear me?
You were great until we couldn't. So about 20 seconds before. Yeah.
Okay. I don't even know where I was at, but let me just kind of just try to go from a spot.
You're good. Wherever you want. You can do a little brief recap, restart, whatever. I don't care.
We're gonna do a brief recap, okay? Okay. For the record, this has been an awesome thing for me. This community has been awesome for me. In fact, I didn't know what to expect from it, but I highly recommend joining this just for the pure fact of being able to have friends who are like-minded, who have amazing stories. There's my little plug for Anthony's program. Okay, so I don't know where I ended off, but I'll just start. So I had my husband, he was diagnosed with progressive MS in 2019, and I became a caregiver, the full-time provider of my family, and I was also a mother to our 6 kids. And so I went from just like trying to figure out, like thinking that I was going to be a mom to my kids, to all of a sudden my world got completely turned upside down. And I remember this one day, I think you guys heard up to this point maybe, but I remember one day where I was driving to work, just like I had to go get a job and I had to leave my kids when they needed me the most. And because at the time, my kids were also suffering. They were losing both their mom, who had to go to work to pay bills, and also their dad, who couldn't watch them. My mom was actually watching my husband while I went to work. And so I remember on my way to work, I remember crying, just sitting there like thinking, oh my gosh, overwhelmed was just not a strong enough word for what I was feeling. I was so broken. I was so at rock bottom, like what the heck just happened to my life? And on top of that, I had family members. My husband's family wasn't understanding what I was going through, wasn't understanding how this rocked our world, and they were very judgmental, and it was really hard because they weren't understanding. So I was faced with all this opposition and everything coming at me. And I was working these 2 full-time jobs, trying to make ends meet, completely exhausted. And I remember having this feeling that, well, first of all, my husband got there was this opportunity where he could be in an assisted living home. And like I said, my mom was helping me watch him while I went to work every day. But it got to a point where he needed more help than me or my mom had to offer, and my sister. And so we had this amazing opportunity where he could be in an assisted living home around the corner from our home, and so that he could still be close to home and still come home every day, but he had a consistent place to be so that he could be watched. And that was a huge blessing for our family. But it was also another one of those things where it was just like reality set in, that this is my reality. And at that time, I had this feeling that I needed to start sharing my story on social media to help others not feel so alone who might be going through the same process, and also to bring awareness to what an autoimmune disease does to not just the person who's suffering from it, but to an entire family. And so I start sharing my story on social media, and I started on TikTok because I was like, I have no followers on there. I may as well just share on TikTok. So I start sharing my story on TikTok. And on my first post, I I created my first post, and I woke up the next morning and I looked at the post and I had 6,000 views on that post, and I called my mom and I was like, "Oh my gosh, mom, this post has 6,000 views on it." And from there, people were just messaging me saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm going through the same thing that you're going through," or "Thank you for sharing your story. It's brought a lot of closure to me." Kind of like Anthony, what he was saying is just I got so many messages from people just telling me how my story was impacting them and how they've also been through something similar. And the thing that I didn't expect was that those people who were messaging me helped me not feel so alone, because I didn't know anybody in my personal life who was experiencing the same thing as me. So I start sharing my story, and um, I start to meet all these people, and I created a community of caregivers and a caregiver support group. And I had this feeling again to start sharing my story on Instagram and Facebook. So then that's where my personal friends and family were. And so I started sharing my story on Instagram and Facebook, and my account started to grow. And I started getting more of those messages and more of those comments from people saying that they had been through something similar. What I found is that, okay, first of all, I started helping caregivers of loved ones, and as I started helping caregivers, I didn't really, it wasn't really sitting right with me, but I knew that there was something that I needed to do with my story. So I started helping caregivers, and I built this caregiver course. And at one point, I had another feeling that I needed to stop helping caregivers, not stop helping them, but I needed to step into helping other people share their story. Because in the process of sharing my own story is I found that so many other people have stories, and they don't know how to tell them, and they don't know how to share them, or they don't know how to be vulnerable and share those things. But we all connect on this level of pain. I feel like I've connected with people, even though they don't relate with my story. I've connected with people on this level of pain. When you've been in that much pain, you need other people who have been in that much pain too. Um, so, um, with that said, I'll close it up. When you have that feeling inside of your heart that's telling you that there's something more for you, maybe it's to share your story on social media, maybe it's to share your story with your neighbor, maybe it's to just do something more with what you've been through, with those experiences. And if you have that feeling in your heart, step into it. It will open doors for you. It will open opportunities for you that you never expected. When I started sharing my story on social media, it allowed me to be home with my family. It allowed me to work from home and work with my family and create content. It allowed me to share moments with my husband and gave him purpose. He loves reading all the comments that we get on our social media pages, and it has given him so much purpose, as he can't really walk very well. He can't do some of the things that he used to be able to do, and this has given him purpose, but it's also allowed us to spend these valuable years together. So if you have a story inside of you, Share it, step into that calling that's in your heart, because there is a greater purpose for you in this life. The end.
Great job, Lindsay. I love, anytime you have technological issues. It's funny. I started using StreamYard at literally the beginning of the pandemic. Jeff Martinet Jr. was the one that introduced me to it. And next thing you know, we were doing these massive events during COVID on, this very new technology, which now 5 years later, it's funny. But because this is one of the 3 that people use. And it's wild, some of the things that we have done out of COVID that now has just become like part of everyday life. But with all the technological issues, hopping back in, and you were actually like right around where you left off. You did a great job. You crushed it. You also have a great story. And again, each of these 7 people in this group all have something different that they give to the audience, which is again why I think it's going to be very difficult for me to match this group, because there is somebody like you that's sharing the power of sharing your story. You've got somebody like Clark that's getting out of addiction. You've got people that have left an abusive boss or abusive relationship or husband, or have just dealt with a lot of crap in their life. And you do a fantastic, they all do a fantastic job, and you did as well. And you have a lot of great comments as well. Audrey joined us. Scott is watching from PA. It looks like a little snow in his picture. I like it. Great job across the board. I'm bringing Henry up real quick. There we go. Henry.
Hey,
by the way, Henry,
Lindsay,
I've been
good to
meaning to
see
say this the whole time. I keep thinking that you're Evander Holyfield every time you come up, because your earpiece blends in and it looks like you got your ear chomped off.
Oh
So,
yeah, Iron Mike. He hasn't touched me yet, so yeah. But and can't touch many of these. But either way, yeah. Thank you, Lindsay. Man, the consummate professional. When I think of you and your experience and how you always showed up, and it was more like the generosity that I was talking to Anthony about in the beginning. You have this generosity about you, but for me in the course, in the class, you're an example of somebody that doesn't think they're too good. You're not somebody that thinks you got it all figured out. You have millions of views. You've been viral. You're a super mom. You're a super businesswoman. You have done it. Yet you came into this class with a level of still the humble learner, the master student, and you gave to the rest of the class. So that just says so much about you. And for anybody out there that wants coaching on getting their message out there on socials, like I would highly recommend, because whenever you hear a coach that is highly coachable, that tells you the type of experience she's going to be able to give to you out there in the world, because she's going to coach you because she doesn't think she's got it all figured out. And there's nothing better than a master coach that is humble, that is still coming to learn and spend time and learn from guys like me and Anthony. We just have a little bit of fun sometimes.
Thank you. That's sweet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
great
you're
job.
welcome.
You already kind of spoke to the class. And again, everybody had a different experience, but something similar, and built the community. And also, so Lindsay did her final, by the way, while she was at a seminar in a very busy room. So this is the first time we got to see her present. And what happens this time? Her internet stopped working. So we still have not had a clean final performance from Lindsay. So one day we'll be blessed with it. She's going to keep us waiting. That's actually the secret of social media, is making sure to just give just enough to keep teasing, to keep watching. So in all reality, that's what you did there. You're dragging us along.
Left us wanting more.
So make sure you follow her. I put her thing up there, Lou Kelly 06, all in her 400,000 followers on there. She's got them on TikTok as well. But yeah, you're going to love her content. And honestly, if you work with her, great. You could also learn by watching her content what makes her so viral if you want to continue to make better videos. So Lindsay, thank you so much for joining both times.
Thank you.
All right, Henry, looks like we are ready for our final speaker. If people wonder why I stopped doing The Truth Will Set You Free, it's like herding cats, especially with Cash. With Cash, it is like herding a feral feline to get him to respond to text messages. He did heart it yesterday. He knew when it was.
You created a monster, man. He's in high demand now. He's going Hollywood on us.
He was always when he had 500,000, 400,000 followers during COVID and whatever during the election. It was the same thing. It's exhausting. Casey, always there. He's the one that shared this. That's why we got almost 200 people watching right now. But it's exhausting. Hey, see, I was going to give you a compliment. I just gave you a compliment, Casey. But yeah, it's like herding sheep behind the scenes. No, this is actually not behind the scenes ribbing. This is straight up. Anyways, Henry, without further ado, we'll go ahead and wrap this up right after our next speaker, our final speaker, the one that does not like being called a hero firefighter. He does not like that terminology. So he's shaking his head. He's mad at me. He's not a hero. He's just an everyday guy with also a great mustache that Henry cannot grow on his face.
Whatever.
Oh, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to Henry. All right. Without further ado, our final speaker of the evening. Welcome to the stage, Ryan Woods. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, there we go. Can you hear me okay?
You just became
All
Lindsay.
right.
You couldn't get your mic.
Yeah, I just had to hit the button.
Got to hit the button. That is the story of life. All right, Ryan, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and being here and experiencing this. So I would like to ask everyone to take a deep breath, settle into your chairs. I want to invite you to take a journey with me. So I want you to imagine a living room, okay? And the year is 1988. We're kind of going back in time here. So on the living room floor is a young boy, intently looking up and watching a television. And on that television screen is the TV show Emergency. Squad 51, KMG 365 responding. Johnny Cage and Roy DeSoto saving people from a warehouse fire. Out of the corner of your ear, the room over here, you hear, "Hey kid, what you watching?" And emerging from the shadows is this larger-than-life figure. And you look up and you see that he is wearing the same uniform as Johnny and Roy. Baby blue button-up uniform shirt, badge on his chest, so bright you can hardly look at it. Well, that little boy on the floor was me, and that larger-than-life figure was our family friend, and he was a real-life LA County firefighter paramedic. Signed, sealed, delivered, stamped in time forever. That moment I knew I wanted to be a firefighter. Every decision I made in my life revolved around this centralized goal of become a firefighter. My friends knew about it. My family absolutely knew about it. Now, my family has some traditions. One of those is they would send us off of the summertime to spend a week or so with my grandparents. And the summer between, before my freshman year of high school was no different, with one exception. My grandfather sat me down at the kitchen table and he taught me how to polish boots. Simple thing, but it wasn't. He shared so many life stories, adventures he'd been on. You see, he was a military man, 2 Purple Hearts, a Bronze Star, a battlefield commission. He had lived life. He had experienced a whole lot of things, and he understood the true value of history and tradition. Now, fast forward to the year 2000, and I finally did it. I have become a firefighter, and I'm showing up to my first day of shift at the firehouse, and I'm introduced to the captain. The way his hair was cut, the way he spoke, the tone in his voice, the way he moved with purpose was an uncanny resemblance to my grandfather. Now, little did I know that all this would come full circle in my career. Well, this captain, he took me under his wing. And he not only taught me to fine-tune the physical aspects of fighting fire and pulling hose and carrying ladders and all the fun stuff, but he would sit me at the kitchen table and he would share stories of the history and the traditions of our beloved fire service. He had this ability to melt together the physical part of training and the history and traditions and bake it into this concoction of knowledge that just left me wanting more. You see, the kitchen table at the firehouse, that's a very sacred place. A place where we gather, we share stories of life, past calls we've been on, we solve the world's problems, 1 cup of coffee at a time. Important place. A place that everybody kind of takes for granted. Well, now let's jump to current day. I am the captain. Now I bear the responsibility of training, not only the physical aspects of training, but keeping alive the history and traditions of the fire service. How do I do that? How do I build that concoction ball just like that captain that took me under his wing? It's difficult now because the fire service is not like it was 20 years ago when I got started. Technology's kind of blanketed the service and made things good and bad all at the same time. We do trainings online or read an article, but it doesn't hit the same as when Vinny or Joe from Engine 33 tell the story of when they were actually there. It just hits different. So I throw out a challenge, and this challenge is to all the current firefighters out there, the captains, especially the rookies. Next time your boots need a coat of polish, pull up a chair at the kitchen table, invite your crew, get them off the laptops, have them put down the cell phones, share stories, laugh together, cry together. Because the history and traditions of the fire service, they're a lot like an old piece of leather. Over time, they fade, they crack, they become rough. But all it takes is a coat of polish. We can preserve them. The legacies of the brothers that came before us will shine on for the future generation of the fire service to enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed this journey, because I have.
Smooth as butter brown, Ryan Woods. People like your voice. That's what we were chatting about that in the private chat. That I feel like I'm watching or listening to like a 1930s radio when they used to tell no pun intended, fireside chats and just give these great stories. And like I feel like in a different life, maybe even this one, you should be a Audible reader where you do the book. You actually read people's books. I would love to hear that. Everybody talking about how calming your voice is. And on top of it, by the way, and I shouldn't just be talking about your voice, because the story that you had, we've been working, Ryan missed 3 of the 8 weeks, or maybe even, actually, I think he missed 4 of the 8 weeks. And again, like I said about your wife, that you guys were like, do I really go and do I finish? I'm like, you guys have enough. You were right there before you had to leave. Just go ahead and come. And then you guys both surprised me at the final class. And even more so tonight. It was so good. Just absolutely phenomenal. And I love the way that you tied all the story stuff together. But before I go on more, Henry, what'd you think, my friend?
Voice, of course, like state the obvious. I'll be Captain Obvious right now. Voice like butter. That was my comment from the back of the room, just so Anthony knows. But yeah, very easy to listen to, man. And it's just like, as I was listening, and I was remembering your time, because you started out on Wednesdays with us. You started out on Wednesdays coming in, and you weren't pushing that. You wanted to create a movement within the firehouses, and it was like working with your communication. You're speaking in the firehouses. You had a very different type of transformation you were going through. And even in the Wednesday classes, why I was saying that, because you were always willing to go first. If we didn't know you were a fireman, it was very easy to tell that you should have been one no matter what, because you were always willing to step into the fire first. Whenever it was like, hey, newbies, you're gonna come in, you were like, me. Hey, in the class, hey, we're doing this first time fresh exercise. You were like, me, I'll step in the fire. It's just the type of your character, man. And just to hear your story now, the way that it's landed and the way it's completed throughout the process, like, yeah, your voice is like butter, but that story for men in the firehouse and women in the firehouse, just fire people, I don't want to offend anybody, like, it's powerful, man. Like, I want to be like, you're a leader and somebody, I want to be in your firehouse, because you know what really matters about spending time with people and being there. So any of you rookies that are catching on to this, or captains, or anybody in those firehouses, like, you guys got a great leader in this guy with Ryan, man. And just thank you for blessing us even through the fires and keeping people like me safe out here in California. So you're awesome, man. Just keep doing it, man. Keep doing it. Change those firehouses from the inside out, brother, because your voice commands you to.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're trying. And one thing I want to say about this class is it was kind of intimidating. And the intent of Brenda and I taking this class was kind of to figure out some of our speaking abilities for other ventures that we're on. And it's the transformation is that that's the perfect word for it. Like it opened up some of my passions and the things that I wanted to do. And I didn't know I could speak on it. And now I know I can. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and to like the last class you were able to make is where we finally like I think we hit where you were going with your story, and you've done a lot of this on your own by formula. Like you have put together what I would consider is a full 5 minute, as close to perfect speech as you can. Like that was as clean as it gets from beginning to end, and you did that a lot on your own. Because the last thing we talked about is I remember saying like how fun would this be for you to do a one man play at the firehouse where it's like Mike Tyson had that play where it was all him, where he was by himself. There's been other famous actors that have done Broadway shows by themselves, and to have you at the actual table, the fire, somebody else put in their firehouse chat, but to have it where you are talking to yourself and having all the different characters, talking to your younger version, talking to other, you could 100% do that. And you have such a patience with your words. And now you've also added pauses to the patience, which allows it to have a little bit more ebbs and flows. And in the private chat, mom said, you should be number one. And it was, which is really fun for me to see because I'm going to totally rat mom out. There was times where she was like, I love his voice, but sometimes I get a little bit sleepy when he talks because it is so calming. So it's like, where do you find the balance between calming and then also engaging the audience? And I think that you've grown from that point where you have a great voice to now you have a great story and a storytelling ability you may not have had before. And it was so good. So good. Really
Yeah.
good.
I got a question for Ryan, Anthony. If it's all right, we squeeze this in with the time, because I had talked to you, Ryan, and working on the speech and everything throughout this process, and there was a lot of communication, and you were working on some things on really bringing this fine-tuned speech. Again, great work, brother. But how much did that experience in the middle of the class, when you had to leave home and come help people and serve in Southern California and deal with such a massive thing that was getting massive coverage across the country, and you were one of the linchpins in there. Did that experience, bring any kind of flavor to your talk or really hone in anything for you?
Actually, no, it didn't. I was going on a completely different kind of path with how to kind of tie together some of the main elements of what my talk is. And the last maybe week of my life, I've spent teaching at the Fire Academy, which I do every semester. But this is a very strenuous week of live fire training, and I've been taking kids in and out of fire and up on the roofs and chainsaws. I mean, the whole gamut. I've been doing that for the last couple of days. I was doing it today, and that experience and speaking to them and being put on the spot and using some of the things I learned from this class, being put on the spot in front of the entire group of 22 cadets and having to scold them in an appropriate way, right? That inspired, it just kind of brought all of those wandering little bubbles of words into one speech. And I really wrote this like yesterday.
Which is great.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
When you say you wrote this yesterday, there was a lot of elements from the previous.
There was
previous versions, but I think you buttoned it up yesterday. Yeah.
I had like maybe 2.5 minutes that made sense from what I had done before. And then everything else just kind of made sense and flowed, and was able to like use the full sandwich deal and all that. And it actually finally made sense. And I was able to put it together just like the last couple of days.
Talking about sandwich.
Yeah, it was great, man, because like even with your voice, even with the great, it puts you at peace. Even with your talk and your communication, everything that you had, your story, the through line and the clarity for your talk from the boots all the way to the end to how you closed it with the boots. You started with the boots and you got into the boots in the beginning, then you closed with the boots. And I could feel the resonance of when you explained it sitting down and hearing and watching it on TV. And then how you're instructing, the rookies and the captains and the people to come and sit down at the table now. Like, it was just a great close, man. Just phenomenal job how this all came together for you, man. And I couldn't be happier to have you close, this show out, man. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Great job. Kim says the dang sandwich. Thank you very much, Ryan. Take it easy. It was a pleasure. Thank you for joining. Thanks for making it. I know you just got off work too, so take it easy. The buttons, there's such a delay. So it's people, if you're wondering what the sandwich is, I have some methods that I teach, and the sandwich is, not to give too much away, but there's elements of the bread, which are parts of your story and your hook and what's centered to your heart. And then the meat, which for me, I say meat, but because some of our people, Heidi, are vegetarians, we go ahead and say portobello mushroom. The meat is what you're giving away to the audience, the knowledge that you are sharing with them. So he was talking about the sandwich, if you were wondering what that was. So without anything else left, we're well over on time. I don't know. I mean, I know we started a little late, but we just kept doing it. Everybody was really great on timing. So it wasn't that. It was just our banter between. So got to give a little bit more padding. But before we wrap up, Henry, some final words.
This was a great experience, and just thank you, Anthony, for everything that you catalyzed, with the transformational speaking and how we're building and really helping other people. And it was just been a great experience to kind of like step back be in the back room and see them all talk and go through, and to see the collective of people that you brought together. The relationships that you built to bring these people in. You weren't selling one cookie cutter way to do anything. You have a way of connecting with people, and you have a way of really working to get their message out, whether it's a fireside chat or an HR class or a functional medicine or healing from a relationship. And I just want to give you your flowers to the type of skill and experience you got to have, and the time to put into people when it's so diverse and there's so many ways that people are trying to make transformations. These people got their transformations due to your leadership, brother, from being in the class and starting this up. So just when you go to sleep tonight, man, and I hope the audience, give him his flowers. He put this together, and we got to share stories with great people. And now we want to see more. Who wants to see more? Who wants to be a part of the next class? Who wants to take their voice, whether it's parenting their kids or whether it's in an HR room, whether you're in a business setting, or you just need to have a talk, with somebody that's been difficult to have in the past, or you need to free yourself of some previous identity issues that can break on through to the other side, so you can learn not to have to speak that mush or that pain out, and you can do it in a transformative way. This is the place to do it. You come in here and we will take good care of you under Anthony's leadership and my assistance. We will help you out on Wednesdays in the Toastmasters on steroids. That's a whole lot of fun. And then we could turn it up and really get intimate and work with your talk as you get through the class, because we're all about giving, and we're all about generosity, and we're all about seeing you guys rise to the spots and the places in your lives and level up in your lives, so that you're looking back and you're sharing your stories with pride and with joy and with an appreciation for everything that got you to that moment to be able to say that story. So I honor you, Anthony, and the classmates, and I'm just grateful that God put me in this place to be a part of all this, and especially with the comments and Catherine and Beth backing me up out there, like when the no stash jokes. Like, it's just been a great experience, and I see why we love doing this. And we love doing it with others. So I will stop now, because I will go forever. I love you guys. Love Anthony. I love the people commenting, and I love the students. It's just an awesome experience, and I can't wait to keep doing it.
Well, Henry, you've become also you already were, but you've become an even more powerful speaker. I want to give you something funny. So I was having my post call today from last night's class with Jess, and we were talking about you a little bit. And she goes, yeah, I didn't know who he was. He came in late on yesterday's Wednesday class, and he struggled in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, because yesterday was one of the rare occasions that you had to restart you're like, I can't believe hold on. And and then she goes, and he took this deep breath, and then it sounded like I was listening to the greatest speaker of all time do his 30-second, 45-second thing. And I go, yeah, he had just come from something, and he was trying to not come, he was compartmentalizing it, and he just needed to regain his focus. But I could tell you, watching Henry speak, when he flips the switch, is as good of a speaker as you will see, period. And just the way that you were describing this class, you have an ability to resonate, to be loud. You have similar issues that I do, which is the fact that sometimes we could be a little strong in our words. Some people say that we're yelling or barking or whatever. Some people really resonate with that. Some people like Tony Robbins. Some people don't like Tony Robbins. Some people like E.T. Some people don't. David Goggins, huge fan of him. Some people think he's an asshole. So again, different speeds for different folks, but you have truly, as somebody that's been right there with this group. And I hope that I know that you've been doing things on Tuesdays, but our next class for the 8-week class will be starting the first week of May, Tuesday nights. We ended up doing it Tuesday. So I don't know. We'll work on that. Henry, maybe we can share you for part of that. But Jay was helping on this one. But anyways, Kelly joined the chat. You never bark at me. We'll just say that I bark back. I bark back. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining. We had almost 200 people watching this. I would love, and again, the cool part even about Wednesday, the last thing I want to say is, on top of it being a speaking class, on top of it getting out of your comfort zone, we give people quotes, we do different things with people. We had something fun a couple weeks ago where we read it in different ways, and I didn't record that one, unfortunately, but it was a lot of fun. It is something where you not only do you get to learn a little bit about speaking, but you also get to hear people take a quote or take something and provide a little bit of their background and their motivation. So there's sometimes I'm like, I hope people aren't bored during this. And then I find out later that they enjoyed the whole thing, even though they're only on stage for a couple minutes at a time. So I would love for you guys to join. It's free. Come to doubledownspeaking.com and check it out. And then if you want to be a part of the class, this next one starting up, we've got 4 spots available, and we'll be starting another one soon after that if you can't make Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Central Time. With that said, it's time to wrap it up. Time to have a good night. Thank you guys so much. The LinkedIn was freezing. That's a bummer. Well, it might have been freezing everywhere. But Henry's voice is masterfully resonant. She's been your backer all night long. Jiminy crickets. Just kidding.
Thank you, Beth.
All right. Take it easy, everybody. God bless.
Yep.
Have a fantastic evening. And you guys know how I end it. Don't surrender your pets. Don't be a garbage human being.